Now, welcome to the part 2 edition of how you can detail a part foundation. In this edition, we're going to look at how we're going to detail the part base. We're going to detail how we're going to detail the part base, how we're going to fix the part dimension as it was, how we relate it out from the protastructure or any other structure that you are going to use, like other structural software, how we're going to relate it. But before we do that, let's recap on what we've done previously on the other video, the part one, of how you can detail your part base. What we did previously was how we got a plan, all right? We got a plan. This is it on the first layer. So what we did is just to superimpose this plan down to the ground, all right? So we're taking off all the dimension, the cantilever areas rather, the cantilever areas, because this cantilever is not going to be projected down to the foundation, right? So we projected the foundation. So what we did is just to fix the area in which we needed, right? This is the area which we needed, that is the column is going to send on the ground. This is the pad footing, and pad footing you're expected to send only the columns down. So after you compose the column, what you need to do straight away is to try to get your part base, right. The part base has to be on top of it, because all this is what is the wall, all right. And what we did is to superpose the architectural drawing, right, so that we'll get some of the partition wall that we didn't include, because this section we're trying to look at how we're going to support all our members. So on that regard, we just have to stick towards what we have, to relate that. So after relating that, we'll arrive there. So on that, we'll added the part base. So adding the part base, we'll call the dimensions and all that. So we have to put all the dimension label. And don't forget that we're going to use this plan, all right? We're going to use this plan. So the idea of it, let's go to the protastructure structure so that I just get a brief understanding of what I'm trying to say. For example, we have a protastructure structure. If we go to protastructure structure, all right. Now you can see, let's say this is a simple design, okay. This is a simple design for part base. So this is the roof floor, and this is the first floor, and this is the ground floor. Then above here, below here, we'll be having a DPC. Just put your concentration on the 3D right now that I'm looking at. You can see we have the part footing, and you can see on the part footing we have different base. You can identify it from the plan. You can see I'm just showing you from this example so that we'll get a view, understanding, and a clear detail of what we are doing. Okay. So if you see what's happening here, you can see we have different design. You can see this size is different from this, and that is what we have here. You can see it on the ground schedule. You can see. If you zoom in, you can see the difference between this. You can see. So the same. You can see the difference between this and this. So simultaneously, as you're clicking here, you can see it's also showing on the drawing. So having this part base denoted. So what we're trying to do right here is to get various details of the beam. So after getting various details of the beam, what you're going to do right here, from here, from the design stage, what we're going to do is to send it out to the what? To the detailed template. So on the detailed template, this is how we get, the data from our detail, all right? You can see the various data we have from our detail. So from this detail, you are going to uh, bring out a kind of a kind of the label whereby you're going to represent the on the footage. So that will lead us to the AutoCAD version, because we've already exported it. Otherwise, we would have exported here and here. So you can see. So out of this, I've made the arrangement of the one that I've already, that we'll be using. Okay, so we'll be using this. Okay, so what we're going to do is, from our last video, you can see that we have four types, right? Four types. So what we did basically was this. Basically, what I did basically was this. I had a base type two as 1,800. I have base type one as 1,600. I have base type three as 2,100, and I have base type four as this of other fund 1000 2300, right? Okay, so from last video, if you check what I did, this is from some of this drawing was done. You can see that the plan I showed you was just an example, but it wasn't accurate. It wasn't this plan, all right? Because if you generate anything from this plan, since you have this similar base, all right, since it's coming, this base is coming from from your detailing, you're going to have this support, right? But the one I did has a multiple choice because this other design, okay, this other design. So subsequently, I'll be doing a complete design where we're going to detail, we're going to do a full design, we're going to match our structure, our architectural design on an AutoCAD, and we're going to move it down. And you can watch some other videos I've done or relevant design like that, how you can detail, how you can detail two floor duplex. All right, I have video like that I've produced, so you can go back and watch that video. But I'll be doing some, I'll be making this so easy. I'll be looking at it from the beginning angle. All right, beginner's angle. So I want you to subscribe, like, and comment for other videos that you'll be wanting me to, to present or upload in this channel. All right, so for today's video, let's just start up. So you can see this. Let's get this, because this has to do with, you can see I have a 1.6, all right, and I have 1.8, and I have 1,100, and here I have 2,300 by 2,300, and these are the reinforcement that goes with it. You can see it said 23 y 12 by 100. Okay, that should be running at this span. The software has already designed this and give us the data. So the same thing at this area, since it's a square footing, we have on this other footing, it says 14 at different spacing of 150, but the same rebar, right? 14 numbers of y12 at 150 spacing. The same thing at this other length, it says we should go with what, 17 y12 for 125. All right, so the software is already designed because there will be a lot of stress in this angle. That's why you see different spacing. All right, because this angle require more space. But in your own view, you can decide to use the same thing. I might say, okay, since I have similar design of this nature, I don't want to have different thing. I can have the same, since I have the lower here, I'm going to use the minimum. I'm not going to say, since I have 150 here, I'm going to use 150, right? All right. So since I have 125 millimeter, I'm going to use 125 millimeter. I'm going to still edit this. So 125 millimeter, since it's square footing, what I have here, 2001, is 2001 over here. So we'll be having the same 17. All right. That's why I'm just trying to equate the same thing. So we look over here, you can see here we have 11, 12 with 157 millimeter, and the same thing at this other span. So if we have the same thing at this other span, you can see I have 10 over here. So what we're going to do, we have only 4 footing. You can see from what we did on our previous video, we have only 4 types, right? The 1.6, 1.800, 2.1, and 2,300. So we're going to take this. So we won't be needing this, all right? So we're going to take only the one we'll be using. So I'm going to move this down to where I'm going to edit it, okay? I'm going to move it down here so I can easily edit this. Now you can see I want to adjust this because this is clashing with this line. So I want it to be known on the side that um, this rebar, this text is meant for this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to call out this. Now there will be 2 procedures for you to do this. Okay, so today we'll be looking at both procedures. So what we're going to do is we're going to copy this, and maybe we're going to paste it here. All right, so that I'm going to use this to follow the first procedure, I'm going to use it to follow the second procedure. All right, so before I go on, I'm going to get a triangle to box this. So you come over here, you can see a triangle over here on AutoCAD. So you just need to get a full knowledge of AutoCAD. But if you don't have a full knowledge of AutoCAD, I still enroll my students on how you can understand AutoCAD to a very wide angle, a very large extent. All right, so in this tutorial, let's focus on what we're trying to do right here. You can see on the first one, we're trying to lap all the text. We're trying to get all the text to get very close to the rebar. You see, along the span line, they should get very close, in as much as what we have here. It should very close to the span line. You can see the span line and the rebar. Okay, and this other one should also. So simply because you can see, if I push this text somewhere, if I push this text down, if I move it down, if I move it down, you can see it's almost clustering with this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to either push this to one side. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to highlight the text and highlight the rebar. Okay, so I'm going to move it a little bit from this other one. So I'm going to move it down. You can see it has created a little space. So the same thing here, I can also do the same thing here by moving it down. You can see that they've separated. Okay, so with this, um, we can do the same thing here. We can also move. Okay, so with this, I can leave this, or I can also try to push one side of it. Sorry, let's untick this because this selected. Or okay, so you can also move this. What I'm trying to do is to separate the rebar because I want it to be well presentable, right? All we're trying to do, detailing is a way by which you're trying to make your drawing, the design that was made, all the data that was made, that was generated from the structural software down to the to the to down to the AutoCAD where you're going to make it outstanding so that it can be properly read on site. So that's what I'm trying to do right here. Okay, so right here, because I have a wider bar here. So what I'm going to do is to shift it very close. So if I shift it very close, I'm going to leave it. So after shifting it close, I'm leaving it. So the same thing over here. I'm going to just click and shift it very close to it. The same thing here. I'll keep on repeating the same procedure just to shift it very close to it. You can see I shifted very close. So that's the number one procedure of in your design when you're doing something like this. Consider your dimension is well spelled out, everything is accurate. So what you're going to do, if the dimensions are clustering together like this, you can see it's looking as if it's one reading. So you can click this and place your cursor on it. Sorry. So what you're going to do is you try to click it, place your cursor on it, and try to move the text down. You're trying to click it, you drag the text so you can have separation. Okay, you can have separation between the depth of the base and the concrete blinding. Okay, so this concrete blinding depend on your design. You can see for this concrete blinding depend on the area where I'm going to do this blinding. This building is going to be constructed. That's why you see I use the blinding for 100 millimeter. All right, but in your own area, if the soil is okay, you can just do a little screening of blinding screening of 50 millimeter, so it's still good. So what you're going to do is to shift this. That's what I'm going to do. Just try to shift so that we don't get them cluster. Okay, so that's just, by the way, that's what you need to do to push the text away from it. Why I'm having this, as you can see, this is coming with what, 50. So when I have 50, I don't want to do 50 and 100. So what I'm going to do, I might decide to make all of them 100. Okay, can do editing to make it 100 so that you're going to follow it on site, right? So we're going to click this and drag, place it. So the same thing we're going to do here, click and drag, then we'll edit. We're going to edit this to 100. Okay, so that is the same thing we have. So we're going to do the similar thing here over here because we have a section that is cutting on both ways, right? Sorry. Okay, so I'm just trying to create a separation. That's how what you just do over the design. Okay, as simple as that. So we edit this to give us 100, right? Don't forget, this is just my own specification depending on what I want to design. So you can go with what you want. Okay, you can go with what you want. Okay, so you can see I've finally separated them so that no dimension is actually clustering with each other. So you can see what we have here. You can see on this base what the design did was to give us the rebars, right? Give us the runner, telling us that this particular reinforcement is running from this end down to this end. That's why you can see this arrow, right? That's why you can see this arrow extending from here down to here. So the remaining portion of it is going to be the concrete cover, right? It's going to be what? Our concrete cover. The same thing here. You can see spanning from here down to this portion. This is to tell you that you're going to make a provision for what? For your concrete cover. All right. You don't put it from the formwork, because this is telling you that this is where the formwork is going to start. Okay, at the trench. Right. So you don't put it from trench to trench. You're going to give a kind of a formwork down to that 40. You can see 40 millimeter, because of a ground, because it's on the foundation level. You're going to give a 40 millimeter concrete cover. All right, so it's spanning over this length. So that's what you're going to do. And these are the rebar from the section that are showing. Okay, these are the rebar that are showing. So this other rebar, this is it. All right, because if I cut this section this way, if I cut this section this way, right, if I cut this section this way, what I'm going to see, if I'm viewing it this other angle, if I'm viewing this way, this is what I'm going to be seeing. Okay, if I cut the section horizontally, this is what I'm going to be seeing. So if I cut it vertically in this direction, in a vertical direction, this is what I'm going to be seeing. So on the horizontal direction, you can see that this is the rebar. So on the vertical direction, this is the vertical direction, right? So these are the vertical reinforcement showing on this dot. You can see. So these are the same thing as this, telling that it's going to span across this line and it's going to turn. So here, if you count, you can see we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. You can see. So that's what the drawing is trying to tell you. On this other direction too, we have 10 of this. So that's what you're trying to see. So with this regard, the next thing we're going to do is to get a text, and we're going to add a text to it to denote each base type and the number does, the numbers. How many times does it appear from our last counting? So we're going to do the recounting and check the dimension again while we place this here, right? So we'll be needing a text. Okay, so you can see I've created a text there for the sake of time. So I created a text. I'm going to move this text down here. So from the text I created here, I just created a text and said base 1, right? So what I'm going to edit here, I'm going to add type to it, right? Okay, let's say type 1, right? Base type 1, right? So I'm going to shift this to the middle. Let's put our auto on. So on auto, so we're going to centralize this text. Okay, so with this, I'm going to move it back a little bit. I want it to be closer to what we're saying. Okay, so if you look at what we're doing here, you can see I have base type 1. So I'm going to copy the same text down to all of them. Okay, so I have base type 1 here, and base type 2 and 3, and go to the fourth one. Okay, so this is the fourth one. So what we're going to do, since this is 1 and this is 2, we're going to rename them. Okay, we're going to call this 2. We'll move down. I'll call this word 3. I'll call this word 4. We'll call this, 4. We'll call this 4. Okay, so what we're going to do is to go back to what we've done. You can see from our usual count, from what we did from the previous video. Please, if you've not watched the part 1, I advise you to understand, to go back and watch the part 1 so that you get a clear understanding of what we are doing here. All right, because if you watch this part 2, you're not going to understand what I'm going to do here, because I did this planned video on the part 1. So what I'm going to do, I have this to be the minimum part for it. So this is base type 1, and base type 1 is 2 numbers. You can see it's 2 numbers. So we have 2. So base type 3, base type 2 is 4. So we have 1, 2, 3. So you count 3 and 4. You can see it here. You can see it here. So this is 4. So you come here and say is what? Type Base type 2 is what? 4 numbers. Okay, while base type 1 is 2 numbers. You can see just this. You can see it here, and you can see the other one here. Okay, so I have 1, we have 2, and this other one we have 3. Okay, I have 4 for the base type 2. So in base type 3 we have five numbers from what we count. So let's do a recount to that. Let's say one, two, three, four, and five. All right. So five. That's what we have. You can see we don't have base type three again. So there are five numbers. Okay. So sorry. So there are five numbers. Base type three is five numbers. So base type four is also five numbers too. How do you do that? You get it by a count. I don't just assume. Okay. So you can see base type four. So we did base type four is, you can see all here we don't have base type four here. Okay. So base type four, which is 2,300 millimeter, is one. We have one. We have two. Okay. We have three, and we have four. So here we have five. That's how we'll get this five. That's why I say you should watch the part one. Okay. So this is how you detail, the part. But another thing, you need to show how this section was cut. Okay. So you need to show how this section. So this section now you can see that the section was cut in this direction and in this direction. But somebody reading this might not really get the clear view of what we are trying to say. Okay. So that's why you need to add the arrow to it. So what we're going to do, we're going to create an arrow. I'm going to add an arrow to the each of the side. But before we do that, let me explain how you're going to do this. Okay, let me explain how you're going to do this. So simply because we've done this, I think let me do another view of this. Let me take away this and let's stay use this because of what, for the sake of time, we have the text here. Okay, so that we don't repeat each of this. Okay, so let me take away this, let me erase this, and let me also copy the same one we've done because we can still edit it to get the second method. Okay, and as you know what you're doing. So in this second method, it's as easy as you calling them out, like, okay, like you doing a slab detail. Okay, if you don't know how to detail, if you've not watched a detail, please go back and watch our detailed video where we detail the slab. You can see, so we'll be producing more videos on slab and more on detail so that we get acquainted with this. All right, so what you're going to do, you're going to get a line. So I'm going to turn on my auto on so that I'll get a straight vertical line. So since I'm working on this now, I'm going to move this down to the one I've already moved. Okay, since we've done with this, so what we're going to do here is to copy this. So I'm going to produce another line calling this out just to make it straight with this. Okay, so in this regard, since this text belongs to this, all right, so I'm going to move this text, down here. Okay, and this other one too, I'm going to move it out, and the same way I'm going to rotate it. I'm going to rotate it this way. So I'm going to position it right at the spot where it ought to be. Okay, you can see. So what I did is just to pick this angle. Sorry, I copied this. I'm not supposed to copy, I'm supposed to move. Okay, so you can see I'm going to take that off. You can see I'm calling out the bar along this line, that this reinforcement is going to run within this span. It's going to run within the span at this. Okay, instead of putting it inside like what we did here, instead of putting it inside, you can still try to denote it here. All right, I try to call it like this, so it's still welcoming and quite presentable. It's still okay, depend on what you want. Okay, depend on what you want. Okay, and sometimes depend on the client. Maybe for example, you might have a client, or maybe you're designing a company or a firm where you're given a drawing by some group of engineers. Sometimes they are going to give you a reference, or they're going to give you a kind of a sample on how they want their detail to look like. Okay, so your job is just to make sure that you detail very well. You give them a well presentable detail. Okay, so this is what you do. Okay, so what I'm going to do here, I'm going to copy this line. I'm going to call it color 8 because I don't want, since I have white to be my reinforcement color, I don't want white to become the color, right? I don't want white to be this. Okay, so that there'll be difference between my reinforcement and this where while viewing it. Okay, although I'm going to increase the thickness of the reinforcement, but I still think I need to do this. So with this, you can see this is my color line and this is the color of my reinforcement. So you can see for every color, you know what you're going to do. So in this regard, since my color for the text is still blue, advise you still change the color at this level to be blue. So we are going to change all the color for the text so that when you look at the text are blue. All right, the text are blue. So even when we get to this level, I think we need to do the same thing. I think you need to do a proper detail here. Or if you still don't want to do that, if you want to take this text because this is outside text, so you can still do that or do away with it. But anything regarding the one on the drawing, I think you have to look out to that. So the same thing you've done here is what you'll be doing for all of them. Okay, the same thing we've done here, right? What you just do is to call them out. Okay, so that will be the second method. Instead that you're going to detail it this way. You see what I've done here? So I detail it this way or you detail it this way. Okay, all right. So let me call this out so that we'll put them into more comparison. Okay, so I copy this and I place it down here, and I copy this and I move it. Now I'll move this. Now I'll move this down here. So you can see. So within yourself, you can choose within your A or B. You can see both ways. This is how you detail. You can see either you detail this method by calling the labels out, or you detail by leaving the labels inside the drawing, but automatically you can see that every other thing remains the same. But there are other patterns, there are other ways of detailing that I'm going to review that is quite a little different from this, all right? But that will be in our other video. But in this video, I want to show you that you can go with these two, either of these two views will be very, very good. So you can see that currently now we're done. So let's take this away, let's take this out. Let's move this out because this is not part of what we're doing for today. Okay, okay. So currently now we're going to focus on one. Okay, we're going to focus on one. So in your view, you're going to tell me, let's say this is A and this is B. You're going to tell me on the comment section which of them do you prefer. Do you prefer A or you prefer B? All right. So in this video today, we'll be using B. All right, we'll be going with B. But if you prefer A, yes, good thumb up to you. All right. So in this regard, you can see that we get our detail type 1 for the numbers. We've already calculated everything from what we've got. You can see. So on this regard, so when you send some drawing like this on site, what we're going to do, the reading will be when you see base 1, you look at it in this regard and you trace it back to the section of it. Okay, you're going to trace it down to the section of it to see how and what is happening in the section. So this is how you detail your part foundation. So another thing is you showing the section of the wall. Okay, another thing is you showing the section of the wall because you're going to show how this wall is going to be laid on the ground and how this the trench spacing is going to look like. Okay, so we're going to create a section for that. So but in that regard, what we're going to be doing is to show you a view of how this section is going to be created, and we're going to be done with this part detail. Please, before everything, always try to use your dimension. Play with your dimension very, very well in your dimension. Please don't forget your dimension. For every critical area, I want you to go with your dimension. You can see everything that I've done here. You can see my column position is going with what? 2 to 5 millimeter, all right? And you can see the spacing that is left, okay? So that this is going to guide the people on site on how they're going to do. So when you look at the grid, another thing you're going to do lastly before you go, so try to trace the grid. So you're going to look at what area is this column passing. Okay, so you can see that in all of my drawing, the grids are passing at the middle of the column. Right. So I'm going to create a little line. I'm going to create a little line at this point. I'm going to create a little line at this point. So I'm going to move it to the midpoint, and I'm still going to do the same thing at this other direction. Okay, I'm still going to denote the same thing at this other direction. So I'm going to move it down to this spot. Okay, This is trying to tell you that all the grids are what? Positioned column to column. So while inserting this grid on the foundation, it will be cleared and known that this is at the what? Center to center, all right? That the grid is at center to center. So if you wish, you can have a specific dimension for this. If you want to extend it, it will be very, very nice and best for you to do that. Okay? You can see everything has to flush at that mid point. And see, so with this, I'm going to copy this and add to all the columns. Sorry, let's copy that. Copy it from this angle. It's better for you to copy at the middle of this line, right? So copy it at the middle of that line, and I'm going to paste it direct here. Okay. This is just for easy placement. This is going to guide the iron benders on site or the engineers while doing the column set out. Okay, just to locate that they are all center to center. But if they're not center, please place it at the right position of the grid. So at this portion, what we're going to do is to provide a section for the wall, and we'll be done with our pad detail for the foundation. Okay. So here I made a quick presentation of how it's going to look like. What do? I try to get a wall, right? I'm trying to get a wall here. You can see the position of two walls, two lines rather. I have two lines running this way and this other uh, area. So I try to offset to get my workspace, okay? So this will be your workspace at which you're going to backfill later. But at the construction phase, we're going to excavate down from this portion over this portion, okay? So this is what we're going to do, and you're going to excavate down to this portion depending on what to do. So this is how the trench should look like, okay? But in some cases, whereby if you have maybe your 225 and you want to excavate 225 along this area and 225 along this area, it should also be indicated here, right? But because of what I have, because of the ground area and the soil area, I feel I need to give a proper space for this. So that's why we have this, because this is actually from a particular company with a recommendation. So having this section known, you can see what we have here in our drawing. Okay, so this is what I've done by clicking. This is our finished floor for the DPC floor, and these are our back filling. You can see, so our back filling and the screening. So you can see our top floor. This is our finished floor. Our finished floor. All right, and you can see our top concrete floor. This is our top concrete floor, and this is our finished floor. And you can see the mass concrete that we've already cast. All right, this is what we've already cast along this area, and you can see my screening of 50. So I did 50 millimeter for the wall area, and I did 100 for the pad base. That's what I've done here, and you can see the compacted feeling after you might have been able to do your blinding and your concrete work, and you've already established the block work. All right, you've already established the block work along this area that we need for backfilling, and here will be uh your section for it. So having this known, we're going to place this section. We're going to look at where we're going to cut. So at this level distance, I'm going to copy this. I'm going to copy this and I'm going to place it here, assuming I cut the section over here. So the same thing I have over this trench is the same thing, because all the walls, all this level are at the same point, okay? Assuming that I have a stable topography. So the topography are the same platform. So this is what I'm having. I'm having equilibrium height, height of wall from the foundation. Okay, so this will be my depth of my foundation. This implied I'm going to have 4 blocks up. I'm going to have 4 blocks up before I have my DPC. Okay, so and the footing will be 30 footing, right? Will be 300 millimeter my mass concrete, and you can see my height for the DPC will be 450. All right, so in sum total, you can see the superstructure giving me 120, and from my DPC down to the low level here is what? 1,650, avoiding the DPC. All right, so calculating from the DPC, we are going to have 1700 for overall length. So we're going to add that to, so you can see the section I did here, it's section Y, okay? If I cut this section along this area, this is how it's going to look like, okay? This is how it's going to look like, okay? I'm trying to show a brief section of what I've done, right? So in this area, if I cut the section from Y here, sorry, this is supposed to be the section of X, okay? So this section, don't forget, I copied this and I pasted it at this area, okay? So at this point, we have X to be the section, so we're going to edit this, okay? So I'll be editing this and I'll call it what? X, all right? So this, if I cut this section along this whole area, don't forget all of these have the same as this, okay, at the foundation trench. So what I'm supposed to have is this, okay? So over here in this section where we have the section of Y, I'm trying to assume that we're having a kind of a kind of a square column along this, as irrespective of me cutting the section across the wall, right? In as much as me cutting across the wall, I'm still assuming that we'll have a kind of a ball, a kind of a square footage to show as a section over here, because cutting the whole of this area is area of wall, representing here, is not what I want to do. So I just have to represent it here. So in this regard, so cutting the section, this has to show on section Y, why we have section of X and X in this regard. Okay. So about this time we are done with the detailing, So this is the high time we're going to add it into our template. So about this time we are hopefully done. So what we're going to do is to make sure we add this into a template. So in doing that, we're going to get a fresh template. So now you can get a template of your choice. You can have your own template, but I recommend, if you still want to use mine, I'll put it in the comment below. So just identify the comment below so I can send this to you on a little token. So I will get a template. You can see I have a template here. It's template of STADAS engineering. You can see where you can, according to your design, you can see the specification. Let's start from the beginning. You can see what I have here. We have the structural concrete block where you're going to specify any of this. These are the blocks. After printing, depending on what you're doing, the setting out stage, you can identify on this layout. You can see, and you can see the concrete grade. Now the concrete grade in which you're using to do so, there's no much need in you demanding for the reference. So by the time you're presenting your drawing, so someone can easily tell that, or, tell that from the concrete schedule, from what you've seen from the plan. So what you're going to do, you're going to identify that. You can see all the various load for the toilet. This has to do with the load for the toilet, your dead load and the live load. You can see these are your finishing loads and your partition for the bricks, and you can see for the concrete grade and your steel grade. You can see, and space for the approval. You can see it's a wide detailed template, so you can see various, you know client details and drawing details of what you want to do with the part foundation layout, and you can see the specification of the year, the issue date, and a lot of scale. You're going to comment your scale reference, and you're going to talk the particular drawing series, because we might have a lot of drawing, you might have a lot of scales what you're going to do on the construction. You can see the drawing fees is construction approval, construction fees, and you can see what we have here. So all this need to be detailed to make your template very comprehensive. So it's the same thing we'll have here and what we'll have here. You can see. So what we're going to do, we're going to copy this template and we're going to move it down to where we are going to insert it, various drawing into it. So we're going to copy. I'll come over here. So what we're going to do right here, I'm going to try to check if um it's going to be, so let me post it here. You can see this other plan is actually, you know, kicking up. So I have to move this out. So I have to move this plan. I have to copy this and insert it. Make sure it is centralized. So in this pattern, all I'm doing here is working on the model space. All right. This is when you're modeling in the model space, all right? Because all we are looking at for today is working on the model space. So furthermore, I'm going to be exploring how you can do this when you're inserting it in the paper space. When you be using your layer, you can see at this layer we have our layer empty. So we'll be looking at that. But for now, let's focus on the model, all right? So what I want you to do for you to get the proper alignment, you're going to turn off your auto. When you turn off your auto, you click on the line, you click any of these at this point, you make sure your auto snap is on. You can see if auto snap is not on, it will be difficult for me to snap. All right. So if you turn your object snap rather, so you click, can see you press escape, you have a straight line. So what you're going to do right here is to pick all of these and make sure you insert it here into this template. So we'll move this, highlight two of it, and I'm going to untick the auto, and I'll position it respectively where I want it to be on the sheet. So you can see at this portion, I'm going to drop it here. So I'm going to be moving this out so that I'll have a good size for it. Let's move this separately. Try to make it straight with this alignment, right? Cancel the snap. Good. The same thing to this. I'm going to make sure I'm going to move this to snap at this edge so you can see it moving. You can see what we have, right? So you can see will fit in the template. I don't want to make it too small or too big. So with this size, you can see that it's okay. So overall, I'm going to move this. I'm going to click at the bottom area so that it's going to fit in the area where we draw our line. All right. So you can get it closer to this line. Right. So you don't want to be dropping your plan. One is up and one is down. So with this line, it's going to guide you. So if you have series of drawing, if you're doing your beam at all, so you're going to provide a line so that all of them will be in a straight line. All right. Will be in a straight line. So after that, you can turn this off. Okay. So you can see now all what we use in designing, all this, we can actually take this out because we won't be needing them. You can see won't be needing them. You can see how we got from a different template here. You can see how straight uh, the detailing here, but this is a full detailing of building structure that we've already finished. But right now we are looking at what we already have. So in this video, we're going to move this. We're going to also move this because we won't be needing them. And this is our formal uh what we are using to provide something like this. Okay, you can see this was our sample. So currently now we're also going to move it and focus on what we are doing, and this is the template whereby we copied from. All right, so having this, you can see now you're going to detail the saying what we're going to do here at this phase is on your template, you're going to include a drawing. You're going to say, okay, this is going to be on the part foundation. You're going to put the title, the part foundation. You're going to add the date. All right, you're going to add the date to it. The same thing. So at this section, you're going to say, you see here the formal drawing where we got from this template, which we edited. I edited. You can see I have a rough slab bottom reinforcement. So I'm going to take this off and I'm going to add part footing detail. I'm going to add pad footing, sorry, pad footing details. All right, pad footing detail is all right for that. So you can say that's the title, and you can include the date depending on what you are doing. And the reinforcement drawing is still okay. Construction phase, they are still all right, and you can see. So you're going to look at the drawing, what you're going to use for the life load and all. What you're going to do, you specify the drawing. So for the purpose of this video, everything is okay. So you can see now we've come to the end of this video. So please, if you like what you see, I want you to give us a thumb up. And if you want to see things like this in the future, I want you to consider subscribing. Maybe you have a video in mind, what a topic in mind you want us to share in this YouTube channel. Please feel free to drop in the comment section. I will say bye for now. I'll see you on the next video.